Okay, what if there was a unified theory, but not for physics, for thought itself? Today we are diving into a really radical new idea. It's this single system that tries to connect, well, everything. Our own personal wisdom, how society is built, and even the ultimate purpose of the entire universe. I know it's a huge claim, so let's just jump in and see how it's supposed to work. So, the entire theory really kicks off with this one kind of provocative question. What if all those big concepts that guide our lives, things like justice or peace or power, what if they aren't just these fuzzy, abstract feelings? What if they're more like variables in a mathematical equation? Could you actually calculate wisdom?
All right, to even begin to answer that, the theory has to build a whole new kind of language. It's a formal framework for all our ideas, emotions, and virtues, and they call it a calculus for concepts.
So, at the very heart of this whole system is this one master concept, and it's called conciseness. Now, you can think of it as the ultimate end goal of all learning, like perfect clarity. It's this ability to see the world as a completely ordered network, what the theory calls a zero entropy system, a place where every single idea connects perfectly and logically, with absolutely no confusion, no chaos. Okay, so how do we actually build this network of perfect clarity? Well, the theory says it all starts with these fundamental units called conceptual primes. You can think of them as the absolute, irreducible building blocks of thought. They're kind of like the elements on the periodic table, but for your mind. Now, so here's what gives the system its real-world punch. Each of these primes isn't just one single thing. Nope. It can exist in a positive, constructive state, or a negative, destructive one. Just take pride, for example. In its positive state, it's self-respect, which is great. But flip it to its negative state, and suddenly it's arrogance or hubris. And this is where the whole calculus thing really comes to life. You can combine these primes with operators, like plus or minus, just like in math, and the results are just incredibly intuitive. For instance, what do you think happens when you combine justice with mercy? Well, you get a stable, balanced outcome, peace. It just makes sense, right? Let's try another one. What if you take pure knowledge, just the raw facts and data, and you add empathy to it, that ability to really connect with someone else's perspective? You end up with something so much deeper, right? You get understanding. It's a really simple formula for a pretty profound truth. And it's not just about adding things together. The system also works with subtraction. Think about this. What happens if you have a system with a ton of power, but you subtract the concept of humility? The result is pretty much inevitable, isn't it? It's tyranny. It's just a powerful reminder that the absence of a concept can be just as important as its presence. Okay, so we've got this really elegant calculus for ideas. That's cool, but how does it actually work inside the human mind? That question brings us right to the next piece of this puzzle, what the theory calls the wisdom engine. So according to this model, our brain is basically processing two competing data streams all the time. On one side, you've got the ethical track. On the other, the physical track. The easiest way to think about it is like a constant negotiation going on in your head between what is right and what is easy. The ethical track is that ideal, timeless world of concepts we just talked about. And the physical track? Well, that's just plain old reality. The world of deadlines, effort, and just getting things done. So how does it make a decision? The wisdom engine supposedly runs a pretty straightforward four-step algorithm. Step 1, it figures out the ideal ethical outcome. Step 2, it calculates the most efficient, practical, physical path to get something done. Then comes step 3, and this is the crucial part, the synthesis. This is where it takes that ethical outcome and sets it as the non-negotiable goal. And finally, step 4, it maps that most efficient physical path directly onto that ideal goal. And what's the end result of all this? A wise decision. It's that beautiful, perfect moment of alignment. It's where you're not just doing the right thing, and you're not just doing the easy thing. You're doing both at the same time. You're finding the most efficient, most elegant way to achieve the most ethical outcome. Suddenly, the path of least resistance becomes the path of greatest meaning. That's wisdom. Okay, so this is where things get really ambitious. What if this cognitive engine, this wisdom engine, doesn't just apply to you and me? The theory's next giant leap is to say, hey, we can scale this whole thing up. We can use this very same algorithm to design an entire society, turning it into a literal blueprint for civilization.
So, what's the core rule for the societal OS? It boils down to this one principle right here. For a society to be stable and just, the ethical considerations have to carry at least as much weight as the practical, physical ones. They have to set the boundaries. It's a model called ethical pragmatism. And what it means is, yeah, you go find the most efficient solution, but you can only do it within those non-negotiable ethical guardrails. And this table here kind of lays out how this model compares to other ways of running a society. On one extreme, you've got your pure pragmatist. That's where efficiency is king, and you risk a total moral collapse. On the other end, maybe you have a pure idealist. But this ethical pragmatist model, it tries to find that perfect sweet spot. It's designed to be absolutely ruthlessly efficient, but always in service of a clear ethical goal. All right, so to actually make this work, a society has to balance its material engine. Think of it like a triangle. You need three things. First, energy. That's all your resources, your capital. Then you need information. That's the knowledge of what to actually do. And finally, you need management, which is the skill of applying that knowledge to those resources. Make sense? But that whole pragmatic engine is useless, even dangerous, without a strong ethical compass to guide it. So the theory proposes another triangle, an ethical one. The foundation, the base of it all, is avoiding racism. And that's defined here really broadly as any ideology of entitlement. From that single core principle, you get two other rules that, and this is cool, directly protect the pragmatic engine. You avoid stealing, which protects the society's energy, and you avoid lying, which protects its information. And right here, this is the synthesis. This is where those two triangles lock together. Wise management in this system isn't just about being efficient. It's the fusion of that hard-nosed material pragmatism with the ethical common sense that's absolutely necessary to protect the whole system from falling apart. It's where practical skill shakes hands with moral character. Okay, deep breath. For this final section, we're zooming out one last time. And I mean way out. The theory is about to connect this entire structure, everything from that conceptual math to the design of society to the very fabric of the cosmos itself. So to really get this final piece, we have to understand a crucial difference between two types of entropy. First, you've got absolute entropy. That's the law of physics we all know. The universe tends towards disorder, towards its most stable, lowest energy state. A glass shatters, it doesn't unshatter. But then there's something called relativistic entropy. This is all about our conceptual order. For us, that shattered glass is total chaos, right? It's high entropy because our idea, our concept of a glass has been destroyed. So, what's our role in all this cosmic drama? Well, this theory proposes a pretty profound purpose for consciousness. Our job is to fight back against that conceptual chaos. Our fundamental purpose is to look at the physical reality of the universe, all that absolute entropy, and from it create little pockets of meaning, of structure, of order. In other words, our job is to create low relativistic entropy. And when you look at it like that, it creates this just stunning symmetry for the entire story of the universe. Think about it. It begins in a state of perfect physical order, zero physical entropy. As the universe evolves, that physical order naturally breaks down. But then consciousness emerges. And it starts this brand new cosmic project to build a universe of perfect conceptual order. It's this epic journey all the way back to zero entropy, but this time, it's not physical, it's pure, structured meaning. And that leaves us with one final, totally mind-bending thought to chew on. What if we aren't just some random biological accident? What if consciousness itself is the universe's tool for understanding itself, a way of taking that chaotic dance of physical reality and transforming it back into a state of perfect conceptual order? What if our personal search for wisdom is actually the universe's search for itself?